Have you ever found yourself in a season where the world around you is crumbling, your heart is heavy with unspoken burdens, and every prayer feels like it's echoing into an empty sky? Perhaps you're exhausted, not just physically, but deep in your soul, tired of trying to be strong, tired of pretending everything is okay when inside you feel a profound sense of spiritual dryness. You're waiting for an answer, a sign, a breakthrough, but all you hear is silence. It's a silence that can feel deafening, a silence that can breed doubt, a silence that makes you question if God is even there, if He cares, or if you've somehow been forgotten in the midst of your deepest struggle. This isn't just a feeling. It's a profound spiritual experience that many believers walk through, often in isolation, believing they are the only ones. But what if that silence isn't abandonment? What if it's not a sign of His absence, but a profound invitation to something deeper, something more transformative than you could ever imagine? What if the very quietness you perceive is part of a divine process, designed to bring you to a place of peace that transcends your circumstances? A peace that doesn't depend on your problems being solved, but rather empowers you to walk through them? In this message, we're going to explore the profound reasons behind God's seeming silence and uncover the hidden truths that can transform your hardest season into your most intimate encounter with the divine. If you're ready to find solace in the stillness and discover the purpose in the quiet, then stay with me. Before we dive into these powerful truths, if this message resonates with your heart, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us share these messages of hope and encouragement with more people who need to hear them. Just click that subscribe button and join our community. The human heart, in its natural inclination, often perceives peace as a reward, a tranquil state earned only after the storm has passed, after the battle has been won, after every problem has been meticulously resolved and neatly tucked away. We are conditioned by the world around us to believe that peace is the absence of conflict, the quiet after the chaos, the calm that settles once all threats have dissipated. This deeply ingrained perspective leads us to relentlessly pursue solutions, to tirelessly fight against our difficulties, to anxiously strive for control over every variable in our lives, all in the hope that once everything is perfectly aligned, then, and only then, will we finally be granted the elusive gift of peace. We imagine peace as a destination, a serene beach reached only after navigating treacherous waters, a prize awarded for enduring hardship. Yet, the profound and often paradoxical truth revealed in Scripture offers an entirely different, infinitely more powerful understanding. The peace that God offers is not a consequence of resolved problems, but rather a divine presence that arrives before the resolution, a supernatural anchoring that holds the soul steady in the midst of the storm, not merely after its fury has subsided. This divine peace is not contingent upon external conditions. It is an internal reality, a spiritual endowment that defies logical explanation. The Apostle Paul, writing from a prison cell, not a palace, spoke of a peace that surpasses all understanding in Philippians 4:7. This phrase is not merely poetic, it is deeply descriptive. It means that this peace operates on a level beyond human comprehension, beyond the reach of our intellect or our emotional fluctuations. It is a peace that cannot be manufactured by positive thinking, cannot be bought with money, and cannot be achieved through sheer willpower. It is a gift, freely given, a profound spiritual grace that allows an individual to experience an unexplainable calm even when their world is in utter disarray. When medical reports are grim, when financial stability has evaporated, when relationships are fractured beyond repair, or when the future looms with terrifying uncertainty. This is not a denial of reality. It is not an emotional numbness that ignores the pain. On the contrary, it is a heightened awareness of the pain, coupled with an even greater awareness of a divine presence that is larger than the pain, a presence that holds and sustains. The world, in its relentless pursuit of happiness and tranquility, sells us countless versions of peace. It promises peace through a luxurious vacation that temporarily removes us from our responsibilities, a pharmaceutical pill designed to quiet the anxious mind, a coveted promotion that offers a fleeting sense of accomplishment and security, or the acquisition of material possessions that momentarily fill an inner void. These are all external, temporary fixes, fleeting moments of respite that inevitably give way to the return of underlying anxieties and unresolved issues. They are peace from something rather than peace in something. God, however, offers peace as a profound and abiding presence, an indwelling reality that transforms the very landscape of our inner world. It is a peace that does not remove the waves, but teaches us to walk on them. It does not eliminate the fire, but allows us to pass through it without being consumed. It is the quiet confidence that even in the darkest valley, we are not alone, and that the one who holds the universe also holds our fragile hearts. Consider the profound paradox. A person can be navigating the most devastating season of their life, facing losses that would cripple others, enduring trials that seem insurmountable, and yet, within their spirit, they carry an unshakable, unexplainable calm. This is not a sign of indifference or a lack of empathy for their own suffering. It is instead a testament to a supernatural anchoring, a deep-seated trust that transcends the immediate circumstances. This individual is not denying the reality of their pain. They are simply refusing to allow the pain to define their entire existence or to dictate their inner state. They are actively choosing to lean into a divine promise, to rest in a truth that is greater than their current experience. This peace acts as a spiritual ballast, keeping the soul from capsizing even when the external waves are real, violent, and threatening to overwhelm. It is the quiet assurance that even if the worst were to happen, even if every earthly comfort were stripped away, there remains an inviolable sanctuary within, a place where the Spirit of God resides, offering solace and strength. This profound peace is not a reward for perfect faith, but a gift for the weary, an invitation to surrender control and receive a divine embrace. It is for those who are tired of striving, tired of fighting, and ready to discover a different way to navigate their hardest seasons. This message, therefore, is not for the spiritually complacent, but for the spiritually exhausted, for those who are desperately seeking a lifeline in the midst of their personal storms. This message, deeply resonant and profoundly necessary, is crafted specifically for the individual who finds themselves emotionally exhausted, not necessarily in a crisis of faith that questions God's existence, but rather in a profound weariness that questions their own capacity to continue. It is for the one who is tired of carrying the immense weight of their burdens alone, the one who has mastered the art of appearing perfectly fine on the outside, maintaining a composed demeanor, a ready smile, and an encouraging word for others, all while their inner world is silently, painstakingly collapsing. This person is a master of camouflage, adept at navigating social interactions and professional demands with an air of competence. Yet beneath the surface, a profound and debilitating fatigue has taken root, draining their spirit and leaving them feeling hollowed out. They are the ones who still show up to work, still attend church, still volunteer, still pray the familiar prayers, but privately in the quiet solitude of their own thoughts, they feel like they are running on fumes, operating on an empty tank with nothing left to give. The exhaustion of constantly being strong for everyone else, for family, for friends, for colleagues, is a unique and heavy burden. It's the silent sacrifice of always being the pillar, the problem solver, the steady hand, while no one, absolutely no one, ever pauses to ask, with genuine concern, how you are truly doing. This emotional labor, often invisible and unacknowledged, accumulates over time, creating a deep-seated weariness that no amount of physical rest can alleviate. But there is an even more particular pain, a more insidious form of exhaustion that afflicts the spiritually weary. This is when even the sacred acts of faith begin to feel like arduous tasks. Prayer, once a source of comfort and connection, now feels like a chore, a hollow recitation of words that fail to reach beyond the ceiling. Attending church, once a joyful gathering, transforms into a performance, a social obligation where one must maintain the facade of spiritual vitality. Worship, once an outpouring of the heart, becomes a distant, detached experience, the songs feeling empty, the sermons failing to penetrate the thick fog of weariness that envelops the soul. To truly understand this profound spiritual tiredness, we can look to the ancient prophet Elijah. After one of the most spectacular victories in his ministry, a dramatic confrontation with the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, where fire fell from heaven, Elijah, instead of basking in triumph, found himself fleeing into the wilderness. Under a solitary juniper tree, utterly depleted and despairing, he prayed a desperate prayer, asking God to take his life. "I have had enough, Lord," he cried. "Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." This is the image of a mighty man of God, fresh from a monumental spiritual battle, yet sitting in silence, feeling utterly hollow, convinced of his own failure and insignificance. This ancient narrative speaks directly to the modern believer who has just fought a huge battle, perhaps a long illness, a difficult divorce, a grueling financial struggle, or a relentless season of ministry. And now, in the aftermath, instead of feeling victorious, they are sitting in a profound silence, feeling empty, drained, and profoundly alone. It is crucial to recognize how God responds to Elijah in this moment of extreme vulnerability and exhaustion. He does not come with a list of new commands, a stern rebuke for his lack of faith, or a demanding schedule of further tasks. Instead, God comes with profound compassion and practical care. He sends an angel who provides Elijah with bread and water and gently instructs him to eat and rest because the journey is too great for you. This divine response is a powerful testament to God's understanding of human frailty and exhaustion. He recognizes that sometimes the greatest spiritual need is not more instruction, but simply sustenance and profound rest. He acknowledges that the journey ahead is indeed too great for human strength alone, and that true spiritual progress often begins not with renewed effort, but with a deep, restorative pause. This message is for you if you resonate with Elijah under that juniper tree, if you feel the weight of a journey that seems too great, and if you long for the divine provision of rest. It is an invitation to understand that your weariness is seen, acknowledged, and met not with judgment, but with an offer of profound, soul-deep restoration. There exists a profound and often overlooked distinction between the simple fatigue of the body and the deep, pervasive exhaustion of the soul, a difference that, once understood, can radically transform our approach to rest and spiritual well-being. We are accustomed to recognizing physical tiredness, the heavy eyelids after a long day, the aching muscles after strenuous activity, the sluggishness that follows insufficient sleep. For these, the remedies are straightforward and universally understood. A good night's rest, a nourishing meal, a period of physical inactivity. Yet many find themselves in a perplexing state where, despite adhering to all the conventional prescriptions for physical rest, sleeping 8 hours, taking vacations, reducing their workload, they awaken each morning feeling just as depleted, just as heavy, just as profoundly tired as they were the night before. This persistent, inexplicable weariness is a clear indicator that what is truly exhausted is not the physical frame, but the deepest, most vital part of our being, the soul. Soul fatigue is a silent, insidious condition that accumulates quietly, often over years, a slow erosion of inner vitality. It is the cumulative effect of countless disappointments, the weight of unmet expectations that settle like dust on the spirit, the gnawing pain of delayed promises that seem to stretch into an eternity, the invisible grief carried for losses that no one else acknowledges, and the relentless emotional labor of constantly managing one's own feelings and the feelings of others without adequate replenishment. The soul becomes tired when it has been carrying burdens it was never designed to bear alone. The crushing weight of fear for the future, the relentless pressure to maintain control over uncontrollable circumstances, the unresolved pain of past wounds that fester beneath the surface, and the chronic anxiety that hums like a low-frequency drone in the background of every waking moment. These are the burdens that no amount of physical sleep can dissipate, for they are rooted in the spiritual and emotional core of our existence. Jesus, with his profound understanding of the human condition, spoke directly to this very weariness in Matthew 11:28-30, when he extended his timeless invitation. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." The word burdened here is particularly significant. It speaks not merely of physical weight, but of the crushing weight of self-sufficiency, the exhausting endeavor of trying to manage life, its complexities, its demands, and its sorrows, entirely through one's own strength, without the divine infusion of rest and grace. Modern culture, in its relentless pursuit of productivity and achievement, often celebrates busyness as a badge of honor, equating exhaustion with dedication and success. We are taught to push harder, to strive more, to constantly be on, viewing rest as a luxury or even a weakness. Yet Jesus, in his radical countercultural wisdom, calls this very exhaustion not a virtue, but an invitation to lay down the heavy yoke of self-reliance and embrace his easy yoke, his light burden, and the profound rest that only he can offer for our souls. The symptoms of soul fatigue are often subtle, easily mistaken for other ailments, yet deeply impactful. They manifest as an irritability that seems to have no clear external cause, a pervasive spiritual dryness where prayer feels empty and God seems distant, an inability to experience genuine joy even in moments that should naturally evoke happiness, and a persistent, gnawing sense of emptiness that lingers even after significant accomplishments or positive life events. It is the feeling of being perpetually drained, of having one's inner well run dry, leaving a profound sense of spiritual desolation. Recognizing these symptoms is the first step toward healing. The solution to this deep-seated weariness is not found in more activity, more effort, or more striving. It is found, paradoxically, in a profound quieting of the inner world, a deliberate cessation of striving, a conscious act of surrender that creates the necessary space for God's voice to penetrate the noise and for His restorative presence to begin its healing work. This inner stillness is not an escape from reality, but a profound engagement with the divine reality that alone can replenish the exhausted soul. In our relentless pursuit of answers and clarity, we often mistakenly believe that the greatest impediment to hearing God's voice lies in the external circumstances of our lives. The overwhelming challenges, the pressing deadlines, the relentless demands. However, a deeper, more profound truth reveals that the most significant barrier is not the tumultuous world outside, but rather the cacophony of the internal landscape, the incessant clamor within our own minds and hearts. God, in His infinite and unchanging nature, has never ceased to speak. His communication is constant, His presence ever available. The tragic reality is that the human interior has become so overwhelmingly loud, so saturated with its own internal dialogues and distractions, that the gentle, profound whisper of His voice struggles to penetrate the din, often remaining unheard amidst the spiritual static. Consider the myriad layers of this internal noise that conspire to drown out the divine. There is the relentless anxiety about the future, a constant stream of what-if scenarios that project fear and uncertainty onto tomorrow. There is the persistent regret about the past, a replay of mistakes and missed opportunities that bind us to yesterday's sorrows. Then, in our modern age, we contend with the pervasive and insidious influence of digital distraction. The constant scroll of social media feeds, the endless stream of notifications, the siren call of entertainment that keeps our minds perpetually engaged, but rarely truly nourished. Beyond these, we grapple with the clamoring voices of other people's opinions, the expectations of society, the judgments of peers, all vying for our attention and shaping our perceptions. And perhaps most insidious of all, there is the relentless internal critic, that harsh, unforgiving voice within that never seems to quiet, constantly pointing out flaws, magnifying insecurities, and undermining our sense of worth. These combined forces create an impenetrable wall of sound, making it nearly impossible to discern the subtle yet powerful voice of the divine. Once again, the ancient narrative of Elijah in 1 Kings 19 offers profound insight. After his encounter with God on Mount Horeb, Elijah was instructed to stand on the mountain, for the Lord was about to pass by. And as the Lord passed, there came a mighty wind, so powerful that it tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, there came a gentle whisper, a still small voice. It was in this profound quiet, this subtle sound, that Elijah finally recognized the presence of God. This timeless account serves as a powerful metaphor for the modern believer drowning in a sea of notifications and noise. It teaches us that God rarely shouts over the chaos. He often speaks in the quiet spaces, in the moments of stillness that we so rarely afford ourselves. The enemy, in his cunning strategy, does not always need to destroy us with dramatic, overt attacks. Often, his most effective tactic is far more subtle. He simply needs to keep us perpetually busy, perpetually distracted, perpetually engaged in external stimuli, ensuring that we are never still enough, never quiet enough, to sit in silence long enough to hear the profound truths God is trying to impart. This constant state of busyness and distraction prevents us from cultivating the spiritual discipline of stillness. This stillness is not about emptying the mind in some mystical, detached sense. Rather, It is about intentionally creating an interior space, a sacred sanctuary within our own being, where the clamor of the world and the noise of our own thoughts can recede, allowing the voice of God to finally land, to resonate, and to take root. Many people harbor a deep-seated fear of silence, and for good reason. In the absence of external distractions and internal chatter, the real questions begin to surface. The grief they have been meticulously avoiding, the difficult decision they have been endlessly postponing, the deep-seated wound they have been desperately numbing with activity and noise. All of these raw, unaddressed realities rise to the surface in the quiet. And yet, it is precisely in that vulnerable, often uncomfortable silence that God does his deepest, most transformative work. It is in the stillness that healing begins, that clarity emerges, that divine perspective is gained. The person who learns to quiet their interior world does not become passive or disengaged from life. On the contrary, they become profoundly perceptive, attuned to the subtle movements of the Spirit, capable of discerning truth amidst deception, and empowered to act with wisdom and intentionality, guided by a voice that is clearer than any other. One of the most liberating and profoundly healing truths for the weary soul is the unwavering reality that when an individual approaches Jesus, broken, exhausted, burdened by doubt, or even stained by perceived failure, his response is never one of condemnation or a list of corrections. Instead, his immediate and overwhelming reaction is one of profound presence, unconditional acceptance, and an offer of sustenance and rest. This stands in stark contrast to the often harsh judgments and demanding expectations that religious systems throughout history have mistakenly imposed upon those seeking spiritual solace. These systems have frequently distorted the image of God, portraying him as a demanding employer who values only performance and productivity, a stern judge who meticulously records every misstep, or a distant deity accessible only to the perfectly righteous. Such distortions create an immense barrier, fostering guilt and shame that prevent many from drawing near when they need him most. Yet the Gospels paint a radically different portrait of Jesus. Consider the woman caught in adultery, dragged before him by self-righteous accusers, ready to stone her. Jesus does not join in their condemnation. Instead, he kneels, writes in the dust, and challenges her accusers, ultimately offering her grace and a command to go and sin no more. He does not begin with rebuke, but with restoration. Think of the disciples repeatedly failing to understand his teachings, falling asleep in Gethsemane during his hour of greatest agony, or Peter, who vehemently denied him 3 times in his darkest moment. After the resurrection, Jesus does not greet Peter with a lecture on loyalty or a reprimand for his cowardice. Instead, he sits by a fire on the beach, cooks breakfast for his betraying disciple, and gently asks, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" This is a profound demonstration of love that prioritizes relationship and restoration over judgment and performance. Even Thomas, who famously doubted the resurrection, was met not with scorn, but with an invitation to touch the very wounds he questioned, an invitation to believe through tangible proof. These narratives collectively dismantle the pervasive myth that one must first clean themselves up, achieve a certain level of spiritual perfection, or overcome all their doubts before they are worthy of God's presence. Jesus consistently demonstrates that he meets us precisely where we are, in our messiest, most vulnerable, and most broken states. He does not demand perfection. He offers grace. He does not require strength. He provides rest. He does not condemn our doubts. He invites us into deeper faith. The emotional weight of being seen in your worst moment, your deepest shame, your most profound failure, your most agonizing doubt, and not being condemned for it, but rather being met with unwavering love and acceptance, is immeasurable. It is a balm to the soul that has been bruised by self-criticism and the harsh judgments of others. This message speaks directly to the person who has perhaps drifted away from God, not out of rebellion, but out of a profound sense of shame. They are convinced that they have failed too many times, fallen too deeply into sin or despair, wandered too far from the path, and are therefore beyond redemption or unworthy of divine attention. They believe that their past mistakes or current struggles disqualify them from God's love and presence. To that person, let this truth resonate deeply. Shame is not a qualifier for distance from God. It is, paradoxically, one of the strongest qualifiers for His nearness. It is precisely in our brokenness, in our recognition of our own inadequacy, that we become most receptive to His boundless grace. Jesus did not come for the healthy, but for the sick, not for the righteous, but for sinners. He welcomes the weary, the burdened, the doubting, the broken, not to reprimand them, but to restore them, to heal them, and to offer them a peace that surpasses all understanding. His arms are always open, His heart always compassionate, and His invitation always stands, regardless of how far you feel you have strayed or how deeply you believe you have failed. This profound acceptance is the gateway to understanding the purpose in waiting and the divine timing that often feels like delay. The human experience of waiting is often fraught with a unique blend of frustration, anxiety, and a gnawing sense of helplessness. We pray 1,000 times for a specific outcome, for a particular door to open, for a beloved dream to materialize, only to be met with what appears to be an impenetrable silence or an agonizingly slow progression. The promise that once ignited our hope now feels forgotten, gathering dust in the archives of our memory, and the season of waiting stretches on, far longer than our patience or our strength can endure. In these moments, it is profoundly challenging to perceive the delay as anything other than a denial, a setback, or perhaps even a sign of divine indifference. Yet, within the tapestry of divine wisdom, what often appears to be a frustrating delay is, in fact, a profound act of protection, a meticulous process of spiritual preparation, and a strategic redirection towards a greater good that we, in our limited perspective, cannot yet fully comprehend. Consider the poignant story of Lazarus in John 11. Jesus, upon hearing that his dear friend Lazarus was gravely ill, deliberately chose to stay 2 more days where he was, even though he knew Lazarus was dying. Imagine the anguish, the confusion, the desperate hope turning into despair for Mary and Martha. They sent word to Jesus, believing he would come immediately, knowing his power to heal. Every hour of delay must have felt like an eternity, each passing moment a confirmation of their worst fears. The unspoken question must have echoed in their hearts. Why didn't he come sooner? Why did he delay when he knew our brother was suffering? Their grief was compounded by the bewildering silence and apparent inaction of the one they loved and trusted. Yet, the narrative reveals Jesus' profound purpose in the delay. This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. The delay was not a sign of indifference. It was a strategic pause designed to allow a miracle of resurrection to unfold, a miracle that would bring far greater glory to God than a simple healing ever could. This ancient story illuminates a timeless principle. Some of what God is meticulously orchestrating in the delay cannot be discerned or understood from within the confines of the waiting period itself. The closed door that felt like a crushing rejection might, in retrospect, reveal itself as a divine redirection, steering us away from a path that would have led to harm or misalignment with our true purpose. The unanswered prayer, which felt like a profound silence, might have been a protective shield, guarding us from a consequence or a relationship that, had it materialized, would have caused far greater pain or derailed us from our intended course. The relationship that ended unexpectedly, the job opportunity that fell through despite our best efforts, the meticulously crafted plan that suddenly collapsed, each of these seemingly devastating events in God's sovereign hand carries a story that will only make profound sense in the rearview mirror of our lives. It is often only much later, when we have gained perspective and maturity, that we can look back and recognize the intricate wisdom woven into the very fabric of our delays and disappointments. Furthermore, God's timing is not merely about the ultimate destination or the eventual outcome. It is profoundly about what the waiting itself is forming within the individual. The season of delay is a crucible, a refining fire that forges invaluable spiritual qualities. It cultivates patience, not as a passive endurance, but as an active, resilient trust in God's perfect timing. It deepens character, stripping away superficial dependencies and fostering a radical reliance on God alone. It nurtures a profound faith that does not demand immediate proof or instant gratification, but rather learns to trust in the unseen, to believe in the unmanifested, and to find peace in the process rather than solely in the outcome. The waiting teaches us to discern God's voice not just in the thunderous answers, but in the quiet whispers, in the subtle shifts, and in the profound stillness. It prepares our hearts, strengthens our resolve, and aligns our desires with His perfect will, ensuring that when the promise finally arrives, we are not only ready to receive it, but also equipped to steward it with wisdom and gratitude. This profound understanding of delay as protection and preparation builds a bridge to the next truth, that peace is not merely a consequence of the miracle, but a prerequisite for its manifestation. In the conventional human understanding, miracles are often perceived as dramatic interventions that occur after a period of intense struggle, a reward for enduring hardship, or a sudden, unexpected solution that brings an end to suffering. Consequently, we tend to believe that peace will naturally follow the miracle, that once our problems are solved, once the impossible becomes possible, then and only then will tranquility settle upon our hearts. This perspective, while intuitively appealing, fundamentally inverts the divine order. The profound truth, repeatedly demonstrated throughout Scripture and experienced by countless believers, is that peace is not merely the result of the solution. It is, in fact, the essential path toward it, a foundational prerequisite for the manifestation of the miraculous. Faith, in this context, is not the feeling of absolute certainty that everything will work out exactly as we desire, but rather the courageous decision to rest in God's sovereignty and goodness before any tangible evidence of resolution has appeared. Consider the vivid account of the disciples in the boat during a furious storm on the Sea of Galilee, as recorded in Mark 4. The waves were crashing over the sides, threatening to swamp the vessel, and the disciples, seasoned fishermen among them, were gripped by terror, convinced they were about to perish. Yet, in the stern of the boat, amidst the raging tempest, Jesus was sound asleep, his head on a cushion, completely undisturbed by the chaos. This scene presents a stark and powerful contrast. The disciples' panic, their frantic efforts to control the uncontrollable, their desperate cries of fear, juxtaposed with Jesus' profound, unwavering rest. This divine tranquility in the face of imminent danger communicates a profound truth about the nature of peace. It is a state of being that does not depend on the severity of the external circumstances. Jesus was not oblivious to the storm. He was simply anchored in a peace that transcended it. When the disciples, in their terror, finally woke him, crying, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" Jesus stood up, rebuked the wind and the waves, and commanded, "Quiet, be still." And immediately there was a complete calm. But before he rebuked the storm, he first rebuked his disciples with a poignant question. "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" This question serves as a profound invitation for us to understand that the peace of God is not a passive resignation to fate. It is, on the contrary, an act of aggressive, defiant trust in the midst of adversity. When a person chooses peace over panic, when they refuse to allow anxiety to dictate their emotional state, when they consciously decide to rest in God's presence, even when every fiber of their being screams for control, they are engaging in a powerful form of spiritual warfare. They are declaring through their inner posture that their trust is not in the shifting sands of circumstance, but in the unshakable rock of God's faithfulness. This peace, cultivated in the crucible of waiting and uncertainty, is itself a spiritual weapon. When we refuse to panic, when we refuse to give anxiety the final word, when we refuse to let fear make our decisions for us, we are actively exercising one of the most potent spiritual muscles available to a believer. This inner calm, this settled assurance, becomes a conduit for divine intervention. It creates an atmosphere where miracles can unfold, not because we have earned them, but because our hearts are aligned with the one who performs them. The Apostle Paul, in Philippians 4, connects this peace directly with prayer and thanksgiving. "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." This passage describes a spiritual circuit. Anxiety is replaced by prayer and gratitude, which then activates a divine peace that actively guards our hearts and minds, creating the fertile ground for God's will to be done. This peace is not merely a feeling. It is a powerful, active force that prepares the way for God's miraculous work, transforming our inner landscape and positioning us to receive the unseen blessings that are already in motion. This profound understanding of peace as a precursor to the miraculous naturally leads us to consider the invisible suffering that God already sees, even when it remains unspoken and unacknowledged by the world. One of the most agonizing experiences for a person of faith is the profound wound of divine silence. Those seasons in life when God seems utterly absent, His voice unheard, His presence unfelt, especially during the most critical and desperate moments. It is a silence that can feel like abandonment, a spiritual void that breeds doubt and despair, leaving the soul to grapple with the terrifying question, has God forgotten me? Does He even care? This perception of God's quietness is a universal human experience, one that even the most devout have wrestled with. To truly understand the theological depth behind these seasons, we must confront the raw, honest cry of Psalm 22, a psalm that Jesus Himself quoted from the cross in His darkest hour. My God, why have you forsaken me?" This profound utterance from the Son of God, who was in perfect communion with the Father, reveals that even Jesus experienced the agonizing sensation of divine abandonment, the feeling of being utterly alone in His suffering. This truth offers immense solace and validation to the believer who is currently navigating a season where prayer feels like it goes nowhere, where the heavens seem like brass, and where the presence of God feels distant and elusive. It is crucial to differentiate between God being truly absent and God being merely silent. Absence implies that He is not there, that He has withdrawn His presence entirely. Silence, however, implies that He is present, but He is not speaking in the way we expect, or perhaps not speaking at all, choosing instead a profound quietude. This distinction is vital. God's silence has never, not once, meant His absence. His omnipresence is a foundational truth of His nature. He is always and everywhere present. Therefore, when we perceive silence, it is not a void where God once was, but a deliberate, purposeful quietude, a strategic pause in His communication that serves a higher, often unseen, purpose. Consider the metaphor of a wise and loving parent who sometimes watches their child struggle with a complex puzzle or a challenging task without immediately intervening. The parent does not step in to provide all the answers, not because they do not care, but precisely because they do. They understand that true growth, resilience, and the development of problem-solving skills come not from constant rescue, but from the wrestling, from the effort, from the process of grappling with difficulty. The parent's silence is not indifference. It is an act of intentional empowerment, a space created for the child to discover their own capabilities and to learn profound lessons that could never be taught through direct instruction. This metaphor, while imperfect in its application to the divine, helps us to understand that God's silence can be a profound act of love, a space created for our spiritual muscles to develop, for our faith to be refined, and for our dependence on Him to deepen beyond superficial understanding. However, it is equally important to acknowledge that there are seasons of silence that are not primarily about growth or learning, but about profound grieving. In these moments, words fail, and even the most eloquent prayers feel inadequate. God is profoundly present in grief, not with explanations or platitudes, but with a quiet, empathetic presence that transcends language. The Book of Lamentations, where the prophet Jeremiah sits amidst the rubble of a destroyed city, offers a powerful example. Even in the depths of devastation and despair, where all seems lost, the prophet declares, "The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." This declaration is not made because the pain has vanished or because all questions have been answered. It is made because, even within the profound devastation, the prophet chooses to look for and cling to the faithfulness of God, even when that faithfulness is expressed not in a booming voice, but in the quiet, persistent renewal of mercy each day. Ultimately, the silence of God has never and will never equate to the absence of God. It is a profound, often uncomfortable, but always purposeful aspect of our spiritual journey. Sometimes, the deepest intimacy with the divine is forged not in the moments of clear answers and dramatic interventions, but in the long, dark, quiet nights of the soul. It is in those seasons when all external comforts are stripped away, when every familiar voice is hushed, that we are left with nothing but the raw, unadorned decision to keep believing, to keep trusting, to keep clinging to the unseen hand of God. It is in this profound quietude that our faith is purified, our dependence is absolute, and our understanding of God's unwavering presence becomes not just a theological concept, but a deeply felt, transformative reality. This profound realization that God sees our invisible pains, even in His silence, leads us directly to the next chapter. There is a particular kind of suffering that carries a unique and profound loneliness. The invisible pain, the private grief, the silent struggles, and the wounds that were never witnessed or acknowledged by another human soul. These are the burdens we carry deep within, the battles fought in the quiet chambers of our hearts and minds, the tears shed in solitude, the anxieties that gnaw at us when no one is watching. It is the grief over a person who is still physically alive but emotionally lost to us, the pervasive anxiety that seems to have no obvious trigger or rational explanation, the crushing sense of failure that cannot be articulated or explained to others without fear of judgment, the dreams that quietly died without a funeral, leaving behind an empty space in our future, and the countless prayers whispered in secret, known only to us and to God. This invisible suffering, precisely because it is unseen and often unspoken, can feel incredibly isolating, leading us to believe that we are utterly alone in our struggle, that no one could possibly understand the depth of our internal turmoil. Yet, within the vast and comforting expanse of divine truth, there lies a profound assurance. God sees every single one of these invisible pains. He is intimately acquainted with every hidden part of our human interior, every unspoken thought, every unexpressed emotion, every secret battle. Psalm 139, in its breathtaking articulation of God's omnipresence and omniscience, declares this truth with unparalleled beauty. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. This passage is not merely a poetic description of God's knowledge. It is a profound declaration of His intimate, all-encompassing awareness of our entire being. Our rising up, our lying down, every thought before it is fully formed, every hidden motive, every secret sorrow. To be fully known by such a God, and yet not to be abandoned because of it, is a truth that can shatter the chains of shame and isolation. It means that the parts of us we deem unlovable, the failures we hide, the fears we suppress, the wounds we believe are too ugly to expose, all of these are already laid bare before Him, and His response is not condemnation, but compassionate understanding. This understanding is not merely intellectual, it is deeply empathetic. He knows the weight of the burdens we carry, the exhaustion of our souls, the specific nuances of our pain, even when we lack the words to articulate them ourselves. Consider the powerful narrative of Hagar in the wilderness, found in Genesis 16. Hagar, an Egyptian slave, pregnant and despised, fled into the desert after being mistreated by Sarah. She was alone, vulnerable, unwanted, and utterly without hope. In her desperation, an angel of the Lord found her by a spring. After their encounter, Hagar gave God a new name, a name born out of her profound experience of being seen in her utter desolation. El Roi, the God who sees. She declared, "You are the God who sees me." For she said, "I have now seen the one who sees me." Hagar, in her lowest moment, running away from an unbearable situation, was found by God in the desert, and He not only saw her affliction, but spoke directly into her future, offering her hope and a promise. This story carries immense emotional weight for anyone who feels unseen, unheard, or forgotten. It speaks to the profound comfort of being seen by the one whose sight actually matters, the one whose gaze is not judgmental, but restorative, not condemning, but compassionate. This divine awareness means that your private grief, the silent tears you shed, the unspoken anxieties that plague your nights, the hidden battles you fight each day, all of these are not only known to God, but are deeply cared for by Him. You are not alone in your suffering, even when it feels like no one else understands. God sees your affliction, He hears your silent cries, and He is intimately present in your invisible pains. This profound truth, that you are fully known and deeply loved, even in your most vulnerable and hidden places, is the ultimate source of comfort and strength. It is the foundation upon which a quiet heart can finally begin to receive the profound transformation that God has been trying to deliver all along, leading us to the culminating truth of how a settled soul reorganizes an entire life. The journey through perceived divine silence, through the depths of soul weariness, and into the profound understanding of God's unwavering presence culminates in a transformative truth. Inner peace is not merely a spiritual experience or a comforting emotion. It is a powerful, practical force that profoundly reorganizes and reorients every aspect of one's life. This is the ultimate conclusion of our exploration, the tangible fruit of cultivating a quiet heart in the midst of life's storms. When the interior world is settled, when the incessant clamor of anxiety, fear, and self-doubt recedes, a remarkable clarity emerges, enabling us to make decisions not from a place of panic or desperation, but from a wellspring of wisdom and discernment. When our choices are no longer driven by the frantic urgency of fear or the relentless pressure to control, but are instead guided by the gentle leading of the Holy Spirit, our path becomes clearer, our steps more intentional, and our outcomes more aligned with divine purpose. The profound wisdom of Proverbs 4:23 echoes this truth with timeless relevance. Guard your heart above all else, for everything you do flows from it. This verse is not merely a poetic sentiment. It is a profound, pragmatic instruction for living. It asserts that the quality, direction, and ultimate trajectory of your outer life, your relationships, your career, your health, your impact on the world, are a direct and inevitable function of the state of your inner life. A chaotic heart produces a chaotic life. A restless spirit generates restless actions. An anxious mind leads to anxious decisions. Conversely, a heart guarded by divine peace, a spirit settled in God's presence, and a mind renewed by His truth will inevitably produce a life characterized by order, purpose, and profound impact. Consider real-life scenarios that illustrate this transformative power. Imagine the individual who, driven by fear and a desperate need for security, was on the verge of making a rash, ill-advised decision about their career or finances. But instead of succumbing to the pressure, they chose to pause, to quiet their heart, to pray, and to wait on God. In that stillness, a new perspective emerged, a different door opened without being forced, and a path of greater wisdom and provision unfolded, far beyond what their initial panic-driven choices could have ever achieved. Or think of the person who, consumed by the need to control a difficult relationship, was only exacerbating the conflict. As they released their grip, surrendered their need for control, and allowed peace to govern their reactions, they witnessed a subtle yet profound healing begin to take root, not through their striving, but through their surrender. Similarly, the individual who tirelessly strived in their own strength, chasing after success and recognition, only to find themselves perpetually exhausted and unfulfilled, discovers that when they cease their striving and rest in God's grace, the very things they had been chasing begin to come toward them, drawn by an inner magnetism of peace and alignment. This is the essence of rest as a spiritual strategy. Not laziness, not passivity, but the counterintuitive, profound power of surrender. It is the understanding that true strength is found not in our ability to control every outcome, but in our willingness to trust the one who already holds all outcomes in His hands. A person at peace is not a passive individual. They are, in fact, one of the most powerful forces in the world. They move with an unshakable clarity, act with a profound sense of purpose, speak with a quiet authority that comes not from arrogance but from a settled soul, and carry a presence that emanates from a deep well of inner tranquility rather than a reactive, fear-driven existence. Their decisions are deliberate, their relationships are healthier, their discernment is sharper, and their capacity to navigate life's inevitable challenges is exponentially increased. This final truth is an invitation to stop running, to cease the endless striving, and to embrace the profound wisdom of stillness. It is an invitation to sit at the feet of Jesus, as Mary did while Martha was busy with many things, and to receive in that quiet communion what no amount of human effort, no amount of striving, and no amount of external achievement could ever produce. It is an invitation to allow the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, to guard your heart and mind, transforming your inner world and, consequently, reorganizing your entire life. This is the quiet confidence that comes not from having all the answers, but from trusting the one who holds them all, and who, even in his seeming silence, is always working for your ultimate good and deepest peace. As we conclude this profound journey into understanding God's silence, I truly hope that your heart has found a measure of peace and clarity. If this message resonated with you, if it spoke to a place of weariness or doubt within your soul, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might need to hear these words today. And if you haven't already, take a moment right now to subscribe to our channel. Join our community of believers who are seeking deeper understanding and profound peace in every season of life. Leave a comment below and share what truth from this message spoke most powerfully to you, or what you are currently believing God for in your own life. Your story encourages us all. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new message designed to uplift and strengthen your faith. Thank you for watching, and may God's peace guard your heart and mind until we meet again.